I got a new microphone arm. So I don't know how that's going to go. I really like to flail my arms around a lot in videos, so hopefully I don't smack into this too much. But it's a nice arm, right? Check out this arm. Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. Teching 101 here. Hope you all had a fantastic Christmas. Good news before we get into the video. Really good news. Remember that charity stream for St. Jude Children's Hospital that I did on the channel last Saturday? And we all had fun, and we did the tournament. We raised a bunch of money, like the most money ever for St. Jude Children's Hospital. Well, I have good news that we hit the $30,000 goal last night. We had a donation that was very generous and actually messaged me to let me know. Darth Ira Corpus donated the remaining like $800 to get us to the 30,000 mark perfectly. So thank you to Darth Ira Corpus. And also, I just want to read off really quick the names of the highest donors for that charity drive, because would not have been possible without any of these people. Specifically, the MVP of all of it, I got to give it to Brian, who donated $5,000, I think within like the first hour or so. So thank you, Brian, wherever you're at in the world. Thanks to Inel, that donated over $3,000. Justin, who donated $2,500. The Tilter, who donated $1,420. Christian, who donated $1,000. Cameron, who donated $1,000. And Darth Ira Corpus, that donated around $800 to get us the 30K mark. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to Rustage, who donated $500. It was a fantastic thing. I'm going to do it again next year. I don't know if we're going to be able to top that one, because that was crazy. It's really making a difference in a lot of children's lives. So, great update. And now, let's talk about Vegapunk. All right, I don't remember what chapter review this was. It was probably back at the very beginning of Egghead. So, like chapter 1061 or 2 or 3 or something like that, all right? But I remember this very vividly. When we learned that there were 6 Vegapunks, or rather there was the main Stella body of Vegapunk, and then there were 6 satellites, I remember saying something akin to, do not trust that, because Oda will mess with us. All right? That's what Oda does. Not just Oda, but a lot of fantasy writers will do that. It's like, oh, you think there were only 10 Espada? Or you think the Espadas go from 1 to 10? It actually goes 0 to 9. You know, it's like setting up a rule to be like, there's a specific number of something, and it turns out there's something beyond that. Okay? It's just like, oh, it's not 1 through 100. It's actually number 0 has a special place. It's like, I see what you did there, right? So pretty much as soon as the satellites showed up, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't trust this. Okay, there could be a 7th, there could be an 8th. Oda's the one setting the rules here, okay? So, we kind of got that, not really, but kind of got that. So, in the last chapter, kind of out of nowhere, Lilith is there on the beach. Robin has her nice wholesome reunion with Saul. That's fantastic. Great. Okay. Lilith is like, hey, Saul, I'm Vegapunk. And Saul's like, what in tarnation? Okay, you've changed a little bit since the last time I've seen you. And Lilith's like, yeah, don't worry about that. I'm a robot. It's fine. Anyway, bigger deal. So Jinbei hoists this big, giant, like, sealed container out of the ship that they took off of Egghead. Maybe they loaded it up during the night when we don't know exactly how the order of events occurred there. But at any rate, at some point, they got this container sealed in, like, the ship, and then they took it on the Great Eric, and then they took it over to see Saul, okay? So Lilith does not open the container, but she says what's inside. She says that it is a clone of the Stella. Not like the satellites. This is a perfect clone of the main body of Vegapunk. This is Vegapunk's biological clone that has been sealed and is like dormant inside of this like cryostasis pod. I don't know if it's a cryostasis pod. I hesitate to say that because we're going to get to that in a moment, exactly when it comes to aging and everything like that, how that's going to go down. Now, that alone should not surprise a lot of people. I mean, I think it did surprise a lot of people because we're like, oh, come on! But I'll tell you this much, like, as many as Vegapunk's whole deal is like, what is death? What does death even constitute when it comes to Vegapunk? Dude sliced off his entire head, and now that exists in a giant island cloud floating around the world. He made a bunch of clones of himself in the forms of, like, androids. You know, the androids. Oh, that's one downside of the microphone arm. You can't see my shirt as much. I don't know. Maybe I have to rearrange it. Maybe I can make the microphone go up here. I don't know. We'll workshop this. We'll see where this goes, okay? So we have that. The idea is Vegapunk will not truly die until Punk Records is completely obliterated. Or will it? Or will it? Because this new clone that we just learned about kind of throws a wrench even in that. Okay, so the story about this clone. When was it created? Why was it created? And why is it here now? And what does this mean? Okay, so this is an image of Vegapunk when he was in his 40s. This is the Vegapunk that went to Ohara, met Dragon there. Dragon kind of chastises him because he joined the world government. I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing? Come on. You know, you could join the revolutionaries. You could be part of something. And Vegapunk's like, I need money and you guys are broke. All right, so that was the idea. Quasar. All right, so he goes to Ohara to pay respects to the scholars there, like Clover and everybody that died. And then shortly thereafter, he learns that all of the books from Ohara were being salvaged out of the lake by the giants. So like Hyruden and Gerd and Goldberg were all there. Road was not there. I don't think Road wanted to go on that. He's like, hey, Road, we're going to go save some books. It's like, screw you. I'm over here designing my perfect land of the gods. It's like, all right, you're weird, but we're going to go. Okay. So anyway, they save the books. They take them to Elbaf. Vegapunk goes to Elbaf and sees the big library, and he reads all the books, and he logs them in his cranium, in the brain fruit, his ever-expanding brain. Okay, now, little piece of information that Vegapunk, I guess Lilith brings up about this, is that, well, you know, Vegapunk cannot just go missing from the lab for months on end to go on a field trip to Elbaf to, like, log all these books in. Because Vegapunk still needs to read all of the books, right? Like, he has infinite storage space, but he still needs to physically pick up the book. I'm sure he's a fast reader, but he can't do it, like, overnight. It's going to take him a while to do that. And there were a lot of books in the library at Ohara, in the Tree of Knowledge. That whole thing was basically a massive library, right? Okay, so it took several months of him being gone, going to Elbaf and hanging out there, and then returning. The government would have, like, you know, like, that's weird. You know, he was based at Punk Hazard at the time. They would have realized if he went missing, right? So that's the reason that clone existed. That clone in the box is the Vegapunk that went to Elbaf, logged all the information in his brain, and then came back and I guess transferred it, because Punk Records did not exist yet. This was like, this is the thing. This was 20-something years ago. This was not, the satellites were not in the picture yet. The Apple receiver antenna was not in the picture yet. Egghead Island did not even exist as it did yet. He was still based at Punk Hazard here. This is still almost 2 decades out from when Caesar accidentally set off the nuke. All right, and blew up Punk Hazard, and they had to move to Egghead. You know, the whole deal with Kuma and everything hasn't really happened yet. You know, all that was like a long time, you know, like a long time before that was with Elbaf, okay? So, my first question is, the idea that Vegapunk could clone himself, that's not unusual. That's fine, because he was working with Mads, and, you know, Judge is there, and Judge was all about clone technology. Vegapunk was a better scientist than all of them. He was better than Judge and Queen and Caesar. So all of the technology that they exhibited, you know, Caesar's viruses and Judge's cloning technology and Queen's bioweapons and all that stuff, Vegapunk would be able to replicate that no problem. So it's like, okay, the genetics that they worked on, you know, Judge and everybody with the genes and the lineage factor and everything, Vegapunk would easily be able to clone himself. Now, the implication here is he cloned himself as he was at that time. You know, like, I guess he cloned himself there. He's not an android. He's not an android. It's not like Vegapunk just made a robot version of Vegapunk. Lilith specifically says, not like the satellites. This is a genuine, bona fide clone. All right, okay. So Vegapunk clones himself exactly as he was back then, meaning he looked like this. He had brown hair, he had the giant head, he had, you know, the mustache. I guess he still has the mustache. You know, this is what he looked like. Okay, so he made a perfect clone of himself at like age like 43 or something like that. Okay, that 43 clone of Vegapunk went over, saw the books, logged him into his head. All right, so first question I have here, are there 2 uses of the brain fruit right now? Because if you're cloning yourself perfectly, not as an android, but if you're cloning yourself, doesn't that mean you are also cloning the devil fruit power? The devil fruit power is part of your lineage factor, right? So this is fascinating because we've never seen it done like this before. We've never seen, well, okay, we have Buckingham Stussy, right? We have her, which actually, this clone of Vegapunk probably existed after Stussy was cloned. Okay, if Stussy is a clone of Buckingham Stussy, and that was like around 30-something years ago when she was still part of Mads, then the Stussy that can turn into a vampire that was a member of Cypher Pool Zero, she has the Bat Fruit. We see her there. Don't actually know what's up with her right now, but that was probably when she was cloned, and she was mentioned to be Mads' first successful clone. So she was the first successful one, and then that was like 30-something years ago, so then maybe like, 22 years ago at Ohara is when this Vegapunk clone was created. Okay, all right, so that lines up in terms of at least timelines of like Stussy still being the first. Okay, fine. But we need to see if Buckingham Stussy, the old one that's like Weevil's mom, that's like 90 years old, does she have the Bat Fruit? Because if she has the Bat Fruit and the clone of Stussy has the Bat Fruit, that proves when you make a biological clone, they keep the same devil fruit powers. There's two people with the same devil fruit power in the world. I don't know if that's how that works, but this Vegapunk that went to Ohara and then went to Elbaf has the giant head. So does that mean like Vegapunk cloned himself so he still has the giant head but doesn't have the brain fruit? Well, that doesn't make sense because he sent him over there to like log all the information in the brain and then bring it back. So I'm assuming they both have the brain fruit. Okay. That makes the most sense to me, just because how lineage factor works. And from the green blood and everything we've seen like that, where we know there's two people right now that have the swim fruit or the dice fruit, right? We have Senor Pink with the swim fruit who actually ate the physical fruit and got the power. And then Vegapunk extracted his DNA and then created green blood, synthesized that into S-Shark. And now S-Shark also has the swim fruit. All right, great. So two people with the same devil fruit ability. That's possible. Same thing with the brain fruit, I would assume, right? And then there's also the satellites who all technically had it too, I guess. So that container, that cryo chamber that Lilith took out in the last chapter, right? There's no way Vegapunk's giant head is fitting inside of that chamber, which means the Vegapunk inside of that cryo chamber also had to have his head cut off at some point, all right? So that means, I guess around the same time, I don't know, Vegapunk was like, all right, I'm going to slice off my head, turn it into Punk Records, add the Apple antenna. And then I'm also going to slice the head off this clone that I made a while ago. And then I guess also add an Apple antenna onto that. But where did the second head go? Where did the second cranium go? All right? Because this was the clone. This was the clone. Confirmed. This is in the box right now. There's no way this Vegapunk is fitting in the box. So, like, is there a second Punk Records out there somewhere? The main Punk Records, the one that Vegapunk was adding to, was on top of the Labo phase in the giant egg, and now it's floating around in the clouds. But there's got to be another one somewhere. In fact, that would actually be cool if that was the case, where Vegapunk was splitting his knowledge between two large databases and they're just copies of each other, and the other one is located somewhere else in the world. I don't know where, but somewhere, right? Okay. So that's the question involving like lineage factor, copying a devil fruit ability in a clone, and if there's two Punk Records that exist right now, all right? So also, is the Vegapunk inside of that chamber still like around 40 years old, or is he the same age as Vegapunk was when he died? So like when the Stella died, so like 65. Okay, I'm just saying, if this is a clone that you could turn on and off and put into like stasis, maybe that Vegapunk is a younger version of himself. It's very, very feasible. Okay, so yeah, because there weren't two Stellas walking around, because the idea, I guess the implication is, did the other satellites know about that Vegapunk? Did York know that there was a clone of the Stella? Because you think York would have, like, if York knew about that, she would immediately go to kind of, like, eliminate that copy to, like, make sure there's no other Stellas running around, okay? York's whole thing was, there's too many Vegapunks. There only needs to be one of us, right? So, It's possible. I mean, I guess she did know because they're all Vegapunks, right? I guess some information they could go like on silent mode every now and then, but I don't know if that's the case because that seems to be like that's an invention Vegapunk created like 20 something years ago that there was a clone of himself. I feel like all the satellites would know this. Okay, so and maybe York just forgot about it, or York felt like it wasn't important or something. I don't know, and escaped her notice, or she had other shit going on, so she didn't worry about that clone right there. Wherever it was stored in the lab, I have no idea. Okay, so Lilith mentions, "Hey, I can't activate this version of the Stella. I can't reawaken this clone from this chamber because I don't have the necessary technology. Probably requires a certain amount of like life support, you know, maybe like a defibrillator or something to like start the heart of the clone to get it moving again." So Lilith mentions, "Hey, don't worry. I'm going to hang out here on Elbaf. I'm going to set up a new lab here. I'm going to get my technology going, and eventually I'm going to awaken the Stella." So that Vegapunk is back. Also, by the way, why didn't Lilith bring this up earlier on the Great Eric when all of the Straw Hats, like Luffy, was so melancholy about, like, "I let old Apple Grandpa die. Oh, no, why?" And then Lilith had to be the one to be like, "Luffy, don't worry about it. I'm Vegapunk. You saved me. It's all good," right? Like, your goal was to save me. You saved me. I'm good. Oh, by the way, I also have a perfect copy of the Stella over there in the hold that we can activate someday and reawaken. So you really genuinely did save us in that sense and in this sense. You know, so like why didn't Lilith bring that up then? I felt like that would have been a good opportunity to bring that up. Like, "Oh, by the way, we also have a perfect clone of the Stella that we can awaken at some point. Also, I'm still alive too, as in Lilith." So, whatever. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, I guess. So Lilith's going to create a lab and then eventually reawaken this Vegapunk. Okay, that's probably... You know what? I have a feeling that is not going to be relevant until much later in the story for whatever reason. I have a feeling like that Vegapunk is not going to wake up right here and now on Elbaf. That might be something like way further down the line, near the end of One Piece. We see this Stella walking out of this chamber like, "Oh, Quasar, thanks for reactivating me, Lilith. Well, everything's okay now. I got my body back. Okay, let's go." And that brings up a whole other discussion that a lot of people are mad about as of late. You know, did you see Jay's reaction to this? In fact, let's get into that involving Kuma, because in that same conversation, Bonnie was like, "Oh, hey, Lilith, can you also fix my dad?" And Lilith is just like, "Yeah, Bonnie, that's the plan." Oh, God. All right. Yeah, Jay got mad over that one. I want Kuma to stay dead. I mean, or at least I want Kuma to remain in the state he's in right now. All right? If Lilith wants to fix up the robot body of Kuma, if that's what Lilith meant by that, like, fine, right? Like, I'm just going to fix your legs and your servos and, you know, the mechanics of Kuma so he can at least get up and, like, move around. That's fine. And he basically is just there as a vegetable, you know, with the sole directive of protect Bonnie, protect my daughter, you know, like, that's it, okay? Occasionally, maybe we look at Kuma's face and he cracks a smile of like, kind of like the Terminator in Judgment Day, you know, when he learns how to smile. Maybe we can have a moment like that every now and then. Maybe a moment where like Bonnie is hanging out next to a tree and Kuma's there and she's like, "Dad, I want to climb the tree." And then Kuma's like reaches out his hand, and then Bonnie gets on Kuma's palm and like he raises her up into the tree, like, "Yay!" And then Kuma's like, you know, like something like that. Like, that's okay, that's fine, because that's basically what we have right now. We just have to fix Kuma up, you know, to like repair him. I feel like this might be an SBS question. I feel like in the next SBS, somebody is going to bring that up, like, "Oda, what do you mean by fixing Kuma or repairing Kuma? Does that mean you're going to, like, repair?" Because it really does truly seem that whatever happened to Kuma, you know, has something to deal with his soul rather than his mind or his physical body. And that's why Vegapunk was like completely flabbergasted by this. Like, I installed a self-destruct mechanism. I actually designed it to like fry his brain when I flip the switch or when the government flips the switch. And they did that. His brain is gone. All right. It wasn't like an actual bomb inside of him that blew up. It was just like, yeah, this like flip this switch and it fries your brain. He's a vegetable. Okay. So that happened. That 100% happened, and you could argue that, okay, souls also exist in One Piece. Souls are not, or instinct is also connected to that. You can't really change that with science. You can't completely remove a being's nature, okay? Sure, fine, but does that mean that there is an avenue for Kuma to be completely healed because of that? I am okay with there being a clone of Vegapunk because, like, yeah, no shit. That's kind of what we've had the entire arc. You know, why would he just stop at 6? The fact that it wasn't mentioned up until now, I'd be like, all right, that could have been brought up. But the fact that there is, like, another clone of the Stella this entire time really doesn't surprise me all that much, okay? It's like, fine, sure, okay. But Kuma's story seems to be like, oh, this is beyond the realms of science. That seems to be the kind of message Oda is telling here, that even despite with Vegapunk's massive scientific advancements like 500 years in the future, there are still things like the human soul that science cannot explain, and the metaphysical, you know, like that kind of stuff, right? So it would be weird if, like, the solution to that is like, oh, don't worry, Bonnie, I could figure out a way to repair Kuma's brain exactly. People also threw out the idea that S-Bear, the Seraphim S-Bear, might hold a key to this as well somehow. Or Vegapunk's going to make a clone of Kuma, like, and that clone will, like, grow up and will exhibit, like, Kuma's personality and everything, but won't have any of his memories. But wait a minute, we also have the paw. We also have the paw bubble. Which the paw bubble was stored on Egghead, and then Bonnie went into it, and it was mentioned that as soon as someone comes in contact with it, the memory bubble will disappear, right? So unless you could make, I mean, Vegapunk did say he can make, like, copies of it, right? So maybe there is, maybe it's like in the next chapter, Lilith pulls out another container. She's like, this is Kuma's memory bubble. We just have to fix Kuma and then shove this memory bubble into him, all right? It does bring up another question, like, what is the human soul? Is the human soul just a collection of memories? Because I would imagine your memory is just one part of what you are, like your consciousness as a human. We're getting really existential here right now, right? Like, it's just like if I was an empty shell and you inserted my memories into me, it would be like, would I be 100% who I am? I wouldn't say yes. I would say no, there's other factors here. What are my dreams, my ambitions? My memories are just like me watching a television show of like, oh yeah, memories. Okay, cool. But there's like other factors that drive you as a human, okay? And if we're going into One Piece, the idea, no, the soul 100% exists in One Piece. Like, Brook over here is a, you know, spitting proof of that. Like, yo, you know, I'm just an amalgamation of bones and soul. Yo, I'm an abomination that shouldn't exist. You know, like, yeah, Brook, rock on, buddy. So, yeah, and if that's the case there, I don't know if memories would be enough to just repair Kuma. Like, if you shove the memories into Kuma, Kuma might just be like, I remember Kuma memories. But he wouldn't have, like, any drive or anything like that beyond it. Just he has, like, I have access to my memories. Bonnie, I remember when I first met you, I knew that I needed to carry on Ginny's legacy and be your dad. And I was. You know, it might be something like that, where it's just like you have the memory, but it's just data. It's just like, you know, like a file on a computer. It's not like you've actually, like that Kuma realizes, I have experienced this. I've lived this, okay? So, I don't know how Lilith's gonna repair Kuma. If it's just a physical repair job, you know, just to get him up and moving, cool, fine. You know, Kuma activates his paw fruit or his jet boosters or something, and Bonnie can fly around. Is like, yeah, like have an adventure. Cool, whatever, fine, great. But that's all it is. So I'm okay with that. Let's leave it at that though. All right, let's keep it there. And then there's also the whole theory of like Kuma dying and the paw fruit reincarnating, and then like Vivi getting it. that's just a theory. There's no, like, reason for Oda to exactly do that 100%, but I think that would be a cool idea. A lot of people think that'd be a cool idea. Maybe Oda thinks that would be a cool idea. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but, like, there it is. Okay. But anyway, though, that's the video. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Let me know down below how you feel about the clone of Vegapunk and Kuma's repair. We'll see where that goes. Yeah, that's walking on a tightrope there for sure. Thanks again to Darth Ire Corpus for the donation to get us to 30K on the charity drive. Good success, perfect success, flawless victory this year. It was amazing. And now we're going to get to, thanks for Brian for being the MVP. And now we're going to get to tree facts, letter J. This one's easy. This one was an easy one. The jackfruit. You guys know about the jackfruit. You don't know jack about this fruit. Okay, so the jackfruit tree is indigenous to Southwest India, Bangladesh, Philippines, that region. However, it's been cultivated in pretty much any tropical and subtropical climate all over the world. So there's jackfruit trees in Africa, Australia, and South America. They're an evergreen tree in that their leaves will stay green year-round. Large, glossy green leaves. But the biggest deal with these trees is that it grows currently the world record holder for largest fruit species, or I guess the largest because that's just seeds, or the seeds of the tree that it's being grown on the tree is the fruit, the jackfruit. Okay, the jackfruit. Look at this big daddy. Okay, can grow up to 80 pounds and 3 meters. No, sorry, 3 feet. 3 feet, 1 meter. 3 meters of fruit. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I think that is the record holder. That's as big as it could get. Like, the record is 80 pounds and 1 meter, or about 3 feet of jackfruit. All right, it has a very spiky rind. It reminds me of durian a little bit. I've never had durian. I've never had jackfruit. I know durian is apparently, like, stinks really bad when you cut open it. Jackfruit I don't think is the same. It has a sweet and fruity taste to it. Unripe, it's actually used as a meat substitute because the consistency of the fruit inside of it is like pulled pork, or like pulled pork, in kind of a similar, consistency, so it kind of feels good. I've kind of felt that with I've made a stuffed eggplant sometimes, and sometimes just like when you're making stuffed eggplant and you're mixing the inside of the eggplant with like various sauce and seasonings and things like that, like onions and stuff, you're eating the stuffed eggplant. I get the impression of like this is like not meat, but like the texture of meat kind of. So my brain kind of gets like, oh, this is meat, but not meat kind of thing, sort of like that. The trees need a lot of water, because, the fruits are really big and everything like that. It needs ample water. But once they're established in a particular region and the tree has grown to a decent size, they're very drought resistant once they get to that point. They just require a lot of water in order to grow up. Okay? Now, when you're cutting into the jackfruit, it's probably advised that you wear gloves because the fruit is extremely sticky, like very, very sticky. There is a latex sap, like a white gooey sap that comes out of the fruit. And if it gets on your hands, if you're allergic to latex, it can actually cause a rash. But even if not, it's like super glue. Like, this stuff sticks to you really well, and it's a real pain to get off. So you got to wear gloves whenever you're cutting into the fruit, or using cooking oil can also help you when you're like, preparing the fruit as well. It's full of antioxidants, a lot of dietary fiber, and a boatload of vitamin C. I've seen jackfruits before at the grocery store around here, not very often, but occasionally I will see them get jackfruits in, and I look at these things, and I'm like, man, I kind of want one. So next time I see a jackfruit, I might buy it and cut it up for like all my friends to enjoy, because I've never had jackfruit before. But let me know if you've had it and how good it tastes. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for watching the video, everybody. This will be Teching signing out.